Hey guys, I'm April from Giggle Glitter Graphics, and welcome to Freebie Friday, which is part 4 of the Frostbound Forest Storycraft box, an 8-part series that combines paper crafting with storytelling. Each part has a paper crafting project and a piece of a story that you put into a journal. When everything is complete, it will all fit inside of a decorative box. If you're a member of my email list, this will be sent to you around noon Eastern today. And if you're not and you'd like to join us, you can sign up using the link in the description down below, and you will get parts 1 through 4 sent to you immediately. This is a limited time freebie and will only be available until March 14th of 2025. After that, it's going to be available for sale in my Etsy shop. There are 8 pages in part 4, and I have printed everything on 110-pound cardstock. For supplies today, we're keeping it simple again. We've got scissors to cut everything out, a bone folder to do all of your creases, but you can also use the back of your scissors or your thumbnail if you want. My glue of choice is Beacon Fabri-Tac. This is just my preference. Any liquid glue with a point on it will work. For distress ink, I think I used all of these today on various parts. I used quite a bit of vintage photo, but then I bounced around between the weathered wood, pumice stone, and iced spruce, and just kind of picked the pieces that I thought would look best with the different colors on them and did a variety today. I'm also going to be using an optional Velcro dot. I like these because they hold things closed really well, but I do have kind of a paper closure included as well that should hold up pretty well, but this Velcro dot is going to give you a little extra hold. If you're interested, there are links to all of those supplies in the description down below. So I'm going to get started with the project portion and then come back to the journal portion. So I'm going to put all of these little panels, this particular cover, this one's slightly different size. So this cover goes off to the side. The pages are marked journal or notebook. So if you keep those pieces kind of separate whenever you print and cut them, you won't have a hard time separating them. But this book cover is part of the journal. And then of course all the little journaling pieces. And we've got these little strips and these pieces. I'm going to put these all off to the side, and we're going to build the notebook first. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab these 2 little strap pieces, and I'm going to glue these back to back. This is going to make a nice thick leather strap with 2 sides on it. I have put vintage photo distress ink around the edge of all of this, and I might do it again once it's dry in case some little white edges are poking out. Now you could use a glue stick or something like that to do this. I just like being able to slide things around. So I stick with my liquid glue, but a glue stick would work fine if you want a little more coverage. And I'm just going to line those 2 pieces up. And if you have anything that came out uneven, just trim it up with your scissors or hit it with a little distress ink, and that will hide any imperfections. And I'm just going to sit this off to the side because this is going to go on last, but I wanted it to be nice and dry for when we got to that point. I'm also going to prepare this little piece. It has 2 lines on it. Go ahead and crease those right on the lines so that it has a little fold over tabs in the back. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus here. And then grab your strip and make sure that this is going to slide on here. If you fold it directly on those lines, it should have a little bit of wiggle room, which is what we want. But just make sure that it's going to slide just in case you're kind of off. And then I'm going to glue these 2 little flaps together. So just a little strip of glue there, and then press it together. Make sure you don't glue the whole thing shut because you'll want to be able to thread that strap through there later so that it goes. So put this whole thing off to the side and let that dry. Now, let's see here. I'm going to get the base panels for this. Got everything in neat little piles so I know what's what. All right, so we have this double middle panel. You're going to fold this in half with the white side on the inside and fold your tabs out so that they kind of butterfly out like so. So we want that kind of a shape. We're going to go ahead and glue this back side together, but do not glue the tabs together, just the backs of the panels. We are making a page for our notebook. So I am just going to go around the edges and just do a little swoosh. Close that up. and then give that a smooth with my bone folder while also firming that crease up. That kind of spreads my glue around inside. So there we go. We have that shape. I'm going to grab this panel with the little cabin scene with the bookshelf and the chair. This is going to fold in half, and I'm going to insert the tab right into this little, it's going to sandwich right in there. So open that up, it sandwiches in, and it closes up. This does have a direction, so make sure your flowers are kind of going the right direction. If they do end up upside down, it probably won't matter. It'll all work the same, and once we glue everything else on, you won't even notice, so don't stress about it. So I'm going to run a strip of glue down both sides, and then cover one panel in glue. And then we're just going to stand this guy up, put the tab in, close it, and then I want to make sure we always check our folds and our alignment. So make sure that this is pressed all the way, that it's lined up on the top and the bottom. I'm a little off there, so I'm going to see what's going on. My hinge has come out just a little bit, so I'm going to push that in. This is why I like that liquid glue. I like that working time. And then I want to get that lined up as best as possible. And that looks pretty good. Now we're going to repeat that for the other side. Here is our other panel. Fold it right in half, and we're going to sandwich this panel right over top of the other tab. I'm going to open that up. Glue along both edges, right and left. And then cover one panel in glue. I'm going to slide that tab right in there, sandwich it, and same thing. Give this a little smooth to spread that glue around. And then I'm going to check my top and bottom alignment and that this opens and closes okay. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to firm up this crease here. All right, so we've got our little book, and at this point I recommend bending these pages back and forth a couple of times to kind of break it in. It's not a big deal if you don't, but I find that things like to lay just a little flatter and a little neater if you go back and forth with them a couple of times. Now this might be a little stiff and pop up, but we're going to add a closure to this to solve that problem later on. So next we're going to add the binding to the outside of this, and it's going to hide this little strip where we've glued everything together. So I have this piece here, and this is just going to go on centered right in the middle of all of this. So I'm going to grab this little spine piece, and I'm going to cover this in my liquid glue. And I do recommend liquid glue for this part, but if you are using a glue stick, maybe be a little more liberal with it. You'll want to be able to move this around and kind of crease it and get it where you want it to go. So I've got this, and I'm just going to center this as best I can. Try to make sure it's straight. Now my front and back covers are just a hair off, and so I'm not worried about it. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm going to crease this down. Get a good stick and then fold it in half while it is still wet. Give that a good crease, and then I'm going to take it back, and you're going to get this little kind of ridge that's going to build up in there. So just work that back and forth a couple of times because you want that little ridge so it'll stay flat whenever you open it up. So just so you can see it close up, it's just going to kind of pop up right there. So that just gives us a little binding on the side of our book. Mine is a hair crooked, but that's how it goes sometimes. And you get this little ridge whenever it's open flat. Now let's move to the inside of our notebook. And our character is doing some reading and some research and taking some notes. So instead of building entire books and putting entire stories in them, I've created some little book covers here for you, and then excerpts from each book, kind of the pertinent information. So each of these has 3 pieces, and I'm going to be clear on which pieces go together so we don't get all mixed up. So we've got the cycles of Everseason, Allure and Legend, and then these 2 pieces here. I'll give you a second to look at those. So we've got these 2 individual panels. I think I used ice spruce on this one, and I used pumice stone on this one. If you're using colored distress inks, this part doesn't really matter, but I thought I'd tell you how I mixed it up a little bit this time around. And I'm pretty sure I used vintage photo on this. So we have this open panel with a tab. You just want to fold your tab first, and I have some ink on there, some vintage photo distress ink, so that this little crease has a color and isn't just white. So fold this tab first along the line, and then you want to fold this piece over and make sure that you're not going to bind up that crease. So you're going to go just up to it and then make sure this folds over. And then if you get any buckling, just kind of smush it out. We need to make sure that this hinge is going to move freely so that we can open and close this panel. So the next thing we're going to do is take our larger panel. Let's open this all up. And I guess the first thing we need to do is glue this together. So let's glue these backs together. Just like so. Like we've done a bunch of times before. And then I want to glue this tab right underneath of this panel so that this is a little door that opens up and reveals the text. So let's put a little glue right on the tab. I'm going to turn this upside down. Let's make sure everything is right side up. So we've got this piece, and they're going to hook together like so. So just stack them up. That was a little awkward looking. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. So that the text, everything's right side up, and we are opening this way. So I want to make sure that this is centered and as far into that crease as I can go while still having this open and close. Now let's grab our notebook, and this one is going to glue in right here on this page. So let's put glue around all the edges. And center that up. And then let's open our panel, and this little guy is going to go right here. There we go. So there is our first book. Now we can turn the page, and we're going to add 2 more. So you might need to do a little creasing to get everything to lay flat. So our second book is The Fragmented Balance, Histories of the Everseason. And then here are our pages. And these are actually going to go this way, but these are the pages that we're using just to make sure we have the right ones. And then we're going to do the same thing. This is exactly the same. It just opens in a different direction because the page is facing the other way. So again, glue this down, do your tab first, then fold this in, make sure that this can fold over nice and neat without this piece buckling. And then this time it's going to open this way. So we're going to put the tab on like so. Get a little fold. Make sure we're all lined up, or at least lined up pretty well. And we're going to glue onto this page here, the left side. I was looking for a fun way to add information to the story without building a bunch of little books, and I settled on this like notebook method, and I was pretty pleased with it. And then we're just going to add this little panel right here. So we're adding quite a bit of information to the story today. I'm not going to put say too many spoilers, but all right, so we have one more to go. We've got Echoes in Verse, the season songs, and then these are the two panels that we're going to be working with. And this one is going to open this way. So one last time, fold the tab, fold the panel, make sure everything is flowing freely. I'm just going to do that and then attach our larger panel. And then attach that right to the notebook. I don't like to gloss over anything. I like to do all of the steps on video because sometimes I might not explain something as well the first time I do it, and then each time maybe it gets better or you get a little more information just in case you're not following something. So there we go. That, and then let's open it up and add the rest of our poem here to the side. Like so. Now we can close up our book, and it's going to be a little chunky. You're going to want to give that a good smush, and we're going to add our strap that's going to hold this shut. So let's go back to the strap, and I'm going to leave this sliding piece on, and I'm going to attach this just a little below center because we have this research notes label to put up there, and I like the look of it. You could center it if you want to, but I liked the look of this being a little bit off center so that research notes label can sit right about there. So put your slidey piece on, and then we're just going to glue the very end of this to start. So make sure you've got the back where the seam is for that slidey piece. And I don't know, I'm going to glue maybe about 1/2 inch and attach it at about 1/3. And I'm not going to go quite all the way to the edge. I'm going to leave just a little gap where this is sewn onto our cover. And I'm going to let that sit and dry pretty well. You do want to make sure that this is straight because we're going to wrap this back around. So you could do a little test kind of gentle wrap and make sure everything is lining up okay whenever you come back around to this side. So I'm lined up front and back here. So let's let that dry really good, and then we will move on to the next step. All right, so mine is fairly secure, and we want this little slide to be free moving, but we still want to attach our strap to the cover. So I'm going to attach the strap only to the wraparound spine with a little bit of glue. So I'm going to lift up very gently and then put kind of a blob of glue there and press it down. And this is going to allow this to still move freely along that unglued area. And then let's flip over, and we're going to glue this across the entire back. So you may just kind of pull it around and find where it kind of ends or close to ends and mark it with your finger, and then put some glue all along there. Like so. Hopefully I didn't get too far off. Nope, that looks pretty good. And then slide out of the way, fold this over, and then this is our latching mechanism for the journal. Now, if you don't trust that, if you feel like, oh, maybe it should be a little bit longer or a little tighter, you could put a Velcro dot under there to make it secure and then still slide over. But I'm pretty happy with the function on that. It really came out really nice. I'm quite pleased with it. So now, before this is totally dry, I am going to kind of work it a little bit the way that I did that spine area so that we don't end up with something weird happening when we open and close it. So kind of press it in. It's going to buckle just a little bit. That's normal. And then work it back and forth so you get a little bit of a crease there. We just have one more piece left for our little notebook, and that is our research notes label. And I'm just going to glue that right on, kind of centered in that space. Like so. And now I have my little research notes notebook. Now we're ready to work on our journal pages. So I'm going to flip to my next blank page, right about here. And I've upgraded my binder clip this week. I got this as a Secret Santa gift from one of my friends. So my little dragon is going to help me out today. And we're going to start on this blank page right here. So we have a couple of blue panels. We're going to layer these up into pockets really quickly. Now, these pockets don't have tabs on them. They're just going to be flat. So what you need to do is use a thin line of glue right around the three edges, left, right, and bottom. It doesn't take very much if you're using Fabri-Tac. You might need to judge how much you need if you're using a different glue, but just a really thin line all the way around. And I'm going to place this large panel on first, and I'm going to skew it towards the bottom. Kind of center it left to right, and then push it towards the bottom. So there's some space at the top here. Now I'm going to layer this second pocket right over top of that first one. Same way, thin lines of glue. And line them up at the bottom, left and right. Next, we're going to make a couple of tags to tuck into these pages. I'll pop that to the side here. And we have these two tags that look like this. And all you're going to do is fold them in half, line that top up, and then crease them to fold them in half. And I have used Vintage Photo Distress ink on the sides of those. I think I used pumice stone on the sides of these pockets. And I'm just going to grab my glue and glue these backs together. So I have a double-sided tag. I'm going to try to line that up as neatly as possible, but remember, Distress ink can hide any little edges that are popping out, or you can give it a little trim with your scissors. And then same thing on this one. Give this a nice press so we have a nice flat tag. There we go. And these are double-sided. You can put them in either way, but the long one is going to go into the top like so, and then the short one goes into the little pocket there. Now we're going to flip to our next page. So we've got two blank pages. We're going to use both of these. I'm going to stick this on here, but I'm going to have to take that off to work on them, I'm sure. Just hold this open. And let's work on this page first. Now this is going to look familiar. We've got Myths and Truths of Ever Season Forest. And this is the same configuration as we just did in our notebook. So fold that tab, a little Distress ink if you want, fold over, check the crease, and then we're going to glue these together. Like so. And then we're going to add this sketch of the temple, and that is going to be our add-on piece. So glue right on our tab. Like so. Give that a fold and then make sure everything lines up top to bottom. And then I'm going to go ahead and open this up and add our journaling notes to the inside here. I have lots of journal entries this week. We're really adding more information to the story and what's going on. And then let's come back over here. Get rid of our little dragon friend, and this is going to glue right onto the page. And I know our journal is getting a little thick, so working on this page might take a little finesse. Oop. Make sure I'm right side up, and then just going to center that right up on here. Now, if you need to, you can press this page down and then give it a good smush this way, so that everything stays down nicely. And you might let it dry that way. And when you're ready, put our dragon back in place. We are going to now work on the facing page. So we have a couple of things, and then we've got some labels to add too, but we've got a couple of things to do here. So this piece is going to be folded in half like so. Then we're going to grab this piece here, and it's going to glue right on the back side of this. So I am going to get a nice coating of glue. And then make sure you have it in the right direction. I'm just going to glue that right on. So you're going to want to line this up on the sides and on the top, and then check your fold. So let me slide this so that they're kind of even at the top, because this is going to flip up and down, and you don't want the bottom of this to catch. So it should fit perfectly, but if it's catching, push this up until it's not catching. And if you have a little bit at the top, you can either put some distress ink on it or trim it off. And I'm going to actually add, I should have done this before I glued on, but that's okay. I'm going to add a little bit of ink to this crease, because you're going to be able to see that just a little bit when it's folding up and down. And then I'll just go ahead and go this way and do the same thing on this side. It's like magic. Blend it right in. Let's go back to our journal, and we're going to glue this directly on this page, and we're going to skew it pretty close to the bottom. We want it to sit just about at the very bottom of the page, if not totally lined up with the bottom of the page. So just glue the back panel, not the part that's going to flip up and down. And I'm going to place that centered left and right and towards the bottom of the page, so that you get this kind of an action. And then if you, this is less likely to catch too if you just ended up a little long, if it's lined up at the bottom of the page. So just a little trick there. Now let's grab this little tab. This is going to be the latch that holds this in place. So we're only going to glue right across the top here. Not too thin of a line of glue, kind of right like that, if you can see that on camera. You're basically gluing right to the page there. I'm going to press this down right in the center, so that the end of it catches our little flap. And I'm going to let that dry before I do anything else, because if I try to pull that in and out, it's going to pop that right off. So we're going to leave that. And let's go back and add some of our labels. Add a little weight back in. This is more so it holds the page down so you can see what's going on a little better, because it wants to pop up. So let's find a sketch of the temple, and we're going to place that label right here on that drawing. These are more notes taken by our main character. Now we're going to grab these two labels, and they are going to go on this page. So you might need to very gently pop that out. And we're going to place these symbols keep appearing at the top. Right in the center. And then the other one is going to be centered at the bottom. Now let's flip this open, and we have our last label. And this one is going to go right at the top here, the top of our bottom panel. Get our dragon front out of the way. Now this will fold over, and this is just going to tuck right underneath of here, just to hold that shut. And that is it for part 4 of the Frostbound Forest. I really hope you're enjoying this series. I really want to hear your thoughts and any feedback that you might have about this. Please comment down below and let me know what you're thinking. Otherwise, stay tuned for next Friday where we're going to get part 5.